Welcome back to another episode 69 of the Spittin Hoops podcast. And we're back previewing the All-Star weekend. Obviously, All-Star starters already came out. There's some other storylines happening in the NBA, and we're going to respond to some of y'all's comments because we didn't get to in the last podcast. A lot of exciting stuff.
Sir,
Anthony, how are you feeling?
feeling good, man. Loving the All-Star vibes coming in. A lot of cool moments happening. Really cool to see the Pacers and Spurs out in France in Max's home country hooping out there. So that's been super dope. And as always, the NBA just continues to impress. So love it, man.
Yeah, not fun for all you fantasy players who had to set your lineups before 2 p.m. yesterday, but we move, right? That was
And noon today.
man noon today. Lock in. Actually, it's already over. It's already too late.
Yeah.
But with that, yeah, we're gonna get into we're gonna talk about the All-Star starters, right? Which were just announced, both the East and West. We're also gonna get into our ballots. Then we're gonna do midseason awards. And that's gonna be everything except clutch player. I think clutch player is a little bit tricky, especially midseason. Um, yeah. With that, Anthony, do you want to take it away? Honestly, like I don't have too much. Like this is kind of the fun time in the NBA plot line where I feel like a lot of teams are now healthy. Teams are closer to firing in all cylinders. And we have the All-Star weekend around the corner. So it's been pretty nice. Trade deadline also coming through. I don't think we'll have trades for a little bit, and then we'll get obviously a bunch of trades around deadline time. But yeah.
Honestly, as hesitant as I've been to say this, there are some exceptions with Embiid, Luca, Paolo, Franz Wagner, Kawhi. We've had a relatively healthy NBA season, knock on
Yeah,
wood.
no stars have like torn their ACL or anything like that. Like
Right,
obviously Luca's missing 2 months, like Franz missed 2 months, Paolo missed 2 months, but it's like Booker missed a few weeks, etc.
right.
But nothing like
No season ending stuff,
yeah,
again,
nothing
knock
that's
on
gonna
wood.
knock on wood. Nothing that's gonna change the playoff picture, thank God. But
Thank
it
goodness.
enough stuff that made All-Star ballots a little tricky, which we'll get
Yeah,
to, I guess.
which we will get into. So with that, the Eastern All Stars and Western All Star starters were revealed last night, 2 nights ago, 2 nights ago, I believe. Today's the 25th, so on the 23rd. And in the East, we had Giannis, not surprising there. Tatum, also not as surprising. And I don't think people were too surprised to see Brunson Cat and Donovan Mitchell. I definitely want to hear some thoughts on that. And then the West, we have Steph, SGA, LeBron, Durant, and Jokic. Max, any initial impressions of these starters?
Honestly, nothing too surprising. I mean, there are definitely like stuff I disagree with personally, like what I would have done, but this is kind of what I expected. Even when LaMelo was leading the guards, I didn't really think that he would end up being the starter. Frankly, he was leading the
Mm.
guards in fan voting in the East. So honestly, I'm not super surprised. I would have switched some stuff up though. I don't know if you feel differently, but I think like it's both expected and I think I would have gone a different direction.
What would you have switched up?
Oh, I mean, we can hop into that. I mean, this kind of gets into my starters, but I think the East, I don't think I would have switched it up, but in the West, I think I would have had Ant instead of Curry. And I know the All-Star weekend is in the Bay, and I know it's Steph Curry, who I love too. I think Ant's been better than Curry this season. And and I think I would have had Wemby instead of KD. So
Mm.
yeah, I know I like I don't know. I'm a little surprised about Wemby because he was also like right there in the fan voting right next to KD, and I know it's a little early, but given the Sun struggles, I'm kind of surprised that Wemby's not getting more credit for how good he's been. And I would have started him. I don't know. I don't feel too strongly about it. I don't feel too strongly about either one, but I think I would have gone both with Ant and Wemby instead of who I talked about on the pod 3 weeks ago, right? So
Right. Yeah, I hear you. In the West, this is such a nice blend to me of old guard OGs, star power, NBA, enjoying the end of this era with the two best players in the West outside of Luca. So I actually had no issue with this in large part because this isn't a big part of the All Star is not like how good of a player are you to a certain extent if you have that pedigree. So I don't really have a problem. I love seeing Steph start. I think it's cool.
I
What's
think
your
it's
thought?
fair. I think if we're doing this by merit, I would have had Ant Wemby there.
Sure.
If we were doing it by merit, I wouldn't have switched the East. If we're doing it by watchability, I 100% want LaMelo in there, and I actually want to start Cade. I really wanted to start Cade instead of Towns, but I couldn't get
Eight
myself there.
instead.
I couldn't get
Well,
myself there in terms of watchability. Thing is,
well,
guards, forward, front
yeah,
court, it couldn't work.
yeah.
But I think in terms of watchability, that's something I would have done um, either Cade or LaMelo instead of Towns, and then you still start like Curry, KD, LeBron. But also, if we're going to talk in terms of merit, another thing, I probably would have put AD instead of LeBron.
Mm,
So
yeah, yeah,
that's another thing. But that said, in terms of like, I have no issue with this. Like, that's another like I'm critiquing it to like critique it, but I have no like actual issue with like these players starting. I think it's like it'll be very fun. It'll be very good. It's a perfect mix
yeah,
between like guys I want to see and guys we should see. Um, yeah,
yeah. I mean, in terms of maybe watchability or just who's deserved it, I'll talk about him a bit more. But Cade for me probably could have taken one of those two slots. It's kind of tough to say between Brunson and Mitchell who, because Mitchell he's leading the Cavs, and I think they have the best record in the NBA. Well, both the
Mhm.
Cavs and Thunder have lost a game or two recently, but I just think that Cade Cunningham has been unbelievable, and the Pistons have completely surpassed everybody's expectations. So it's tricky, and Mitchell has his numbers have dropped a little bit this year, but that's also because the rest of the team has really come along strong. So he hasn't had to take as much of an offensive role. But
Yeah,
other than that, to your point, I really don't have too much of an issue with this starting lineup for either of them. They feel right. It feels like a good balance between old guard and new. Like none of these players are young, which is interesting. We don't have a single guy under the age of 26, I believe, on this
that's
list.
that's pretty great. Stat. What about Tatum?
Tatum as an all-star star.
Yeah,
Tatum is going on 27.
damn. Sorry, I
He'll
thought he
be.
was. For some reason I thought he was 25, 20 to 26. Not older
I
than
mean,
that.
he's only 19 in reality,
Yeah,
so he's the exception to this.
I yeah,
But
I hear you on the D Mitch and Brunson, but I can't penalize D Mitch for how good. Like the thing is, I know
yeah,
it's not a team award, but D Mitch has also been the best player on the best team, and he's shooting 40% from 30, and they're really good. I can't
yeah,
really penalize him for that when I feel like we've been critiquing him for this stuff for a while, and then Brunson I think has been better than Cade. So yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm sorry. That's why I'm saying that I wish I could start Cade over Timmons, but yeah,
I see.
it would be weird. Like, what am I playing Donovan Mitchell at the three? Like, I know
Right.
it's all star game, but it's still weird. But yeah, in general, I don't have too many issues with this. I mean, do you want to get into your reserves at that point? Like, I kind of want to know it. Like, is this who
Yeah.
you're predicting at this point since we already have the starters?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a combination of who I want or who I think, but I think I'm personally leaning towards who I think. We can talk about who would want to be, but we've already talked about this guy Lamelo. We just talked about Cade, so that's another one who I feel like obviously should be in there. And then after that, it gets a little bit hairy for me, but I think I'm gonna go with Dame just because he's continued to be great. And they're a top four seed in the East. And then looking at Tyler Hero as the Heat's representative because he's been absolutely hooping this year. Career highs across the board, great shooting splits. Want to honor the Cavs with the second All Star, and I think that guy's been Mobley, who's taken a great offensive step this year, shooting the ball much better, just more confident. Um, and then for me, I wanted to pick a guy from the Magic and who were unreal when Franz was in, and since he's been out, they kind of were holding water, but now they've been pretty bad actually of late. But with him, they were unbelievable, and they were top through 3 or 4 seed in the East. So I want to honor Franz with that. I think he's played 20 something games, so that's a little hairy. He'll definitely have an injury replacement, and then Maxi would be my other guy. I know that the Sixers haven't been very good, but in large part that's due to Embiid being out, and I just want to honor how good he's been. He's like 7th in the league in points per game, and he's just a budding superstar. So those would
Yeah,
be my guys.
I think that's a really good list. I think that's pretty much the same list that I had. I would maybe put Jalen Brown as I would think I would rather because the thing is there's gonna be injury replacements. I think Jalen Brown would be the
Right,
number one injury replacement on your list in theory, right?
right.
For Franz. I think I would probably put in Jalen Brown without being an injury replacement and then let maybe Maxi or yeah, maybe Maxi be the injury replacement. But um
Mm,
I think I think that's all super fair. I think yeah, that's pretty much the same list I had. Hero is a weird one because I could see both Hero or Levine being good
sure.
for this list, like I don't know. Like I think both of them have equal merits. I think Hero will probably end up getting it. Um but yeah, so yeah, I literally just on my list I had Jalen Brown instead of Maxi, but then Maxi was going to be my injury replacement for Fonz. So yeah.
Okay. So guys that might get left off of this might be like a Zach Levine. We didn't even talk about like a Trey Young.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. I am pretty meh on Trey Young. He was fifth in fan voting in the East. Statistically, this is one of his worst seasons. I know the Hawks have been better than expected, especially with a team that is still not great. Like, let's be real. But I know he's fifth in fan voting. I just can't get there with Trey, especially over Maxi, who I think has been the only bright spot in a 76ers team, except for, 10 games of Jared McCain, which we'll get to later.
Hmm.
It's like I can't put Trey over Maxi as bad as the Sixers have been. I just think Maxi's been so good. And then
Yeah.
and then I think I'd put Levine over Trey, honestly. So isn't Levine basically shooting almost 50% from three or something crazy, right? So it's like it's hard for me to get there with Trey.
He's playing unbelievable this year.
Yeah.
And I hear
45%
that.
from three, but whatever.
Wow.
He's basically doing a 50 45 80 season right now, Levine.
Wow. Wow.
Um
Wow. Wow.
so
That's nuts.
yeah, like I think Levine should be in. Levine is like the next man up for me instead of Trey,
Hmm.
but I think Trey would probably be the next guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it is tricky because in spite of the he's been hurt a little bit of late, but the Jalen Johnson step forward, the Okongwu step forward, and the Dyson Daniels absolute steal of a pickup. They're still 500. Um, so kind of attributing a little bit of that lack of team like cohesion or whatever the case may be into
I
this
almost
factor
I
as well.
would it be crazy to say I maybe would rather see Jalen Johnson in the All Star game than Trey?
No, I don't think that's crazy at
I
all. I
mean,
think he's
what
super exciting.
19 10 and 5 this year? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Like that's yeah, it's probably as good as Trey. Um, but the thing is, Levine is on a team that's just as good as both of them, right? And he's got no one to help him out except for Vucevic getting paid 30 million and Josh Giddey can't shoot, right? So
yeah, very true. Yeah,
as much
and I
as
mean,
and I'm roasting the Bulls, like obviously they got Kobe White and Nio and whatnot, like they're good, but like Jalen Johnson's a lot better than anyone else that Levine has.
right. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess we'll get into some of these more kind of guys that could or should make it, but this feels like a pretty good list overall. And
Yeah,
I'm
that was
curious to see how close we are.
yeah. I mean, for the East, I feel like we're basically just on the same exact page. Like,
Yeah,
and I think we'll be. I think Trey will probably end up making it. Is that fair to say?
you think so?
You
So
think
some
he's
of
gonna get
the
a? You think they're gonna give Tyler Hero the nod over Trey?
hmm. Well, I guess yeah. I mean, I guess the Hawks have been better than the Heat this year, so
Yeah,
yeah, maybe not. But he's just been playing so well. It's hard to.
I
And
wonder.
hasn't he had more games too? Doesn't Trey?
Maybe.
No, Trey's been playing solidly. Yeah, 23, 12 assists. That's hard to turn down, man. I mean, he needs to
Yeah.
shoot the three ball better, but
So that's my thing. I kind of think Trey might make it over Tyler Hero, but that's the only thing. I hope not though. I think Hero should make it, and I think Levine should be next man up after
sure.
Maxi, who
Yeah.
will replace Franz. So yeah.
Any other guys that we think are getting snubbed? Well, I mean, actually, I think
Injury
as
wise,
we're
just
chatting,
Paolo. Injury wise is just Paolo, but Paolo's gonna have played like 12 games to 15 games by the time All-Star weekend rolls around, right? For the East Coast, for if we're still talking about Eastern Conference, right? So
right.
I don't
That's a good
know.
point.
Paolo's the only one that it really jumps off the page. Jared Allen, I've been seeing some rumors about him. I just can't get there.
Darius Garland.
Can't get there either. I don't think he's been better than Levine or Maxi or even Trae
Yeah,
Young.
yeah,
Although Garland's been really, really good. But
he's been
I still
very
can't get
good.
there. Like Levine
Yeah,
is literally like 50, 45, 50, 45, 80, 25 a game. Um, and like
yeah.
through the Cavs need three all stars. Like they're not, no disrespect, but
Well, is it like an Atlanta Hawks situation from 2014 where they got four
what
because
would
they were
Kyle Korver 15
Jeff
points per
Teague?
game, 15
Yeah,
points per game, all star Kyle Korver, and 16 points per game, all star Jeff T.
one of the worst All Stars of all time.
Who's the other? It was
Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Jeff Teague.
were they have four or the
They had
five?
four. They had four. They weren't starters, but they had four
Yeah,
All Stars.
it's crazy
I
to
don't
me.
know. I don't know how many of them might have been starters.
I think they had a good amount. I can't remember. But do you remember their fifth starter was DeMarre Carroll? Super random.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
actually
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good.
Shout out, love the boy.
But yeah, that's all I got in the East.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good list. So, all right, I guess I'll take the West reserves that I believe. So, I mean, obviously, Wemby's going to be there. I don't think that's a surprise. AD, I think Kyrie will probably get it because you need a Mavs representative if it's not Luca. Although I do think I could see Luca on this list. Anthony Edwards, of course. And then as the representative for Memphis, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to get it just because of the season he's been having. He's been absolutely hooping. Um, and then James Harden, simply due to the fact that the Clippers have been kind of waiting for Kawhi to return. You lose Paul George, you just kind of have a team shakeup, and he was able to keep them in the playoff picture. So I think he's been playing well enough to uh, make it back to the All Star team for the first time in quite some time. But yeah, so those are my guys: Wemby, Luca, AD, Kyrie, Triple J, Harden, Anthony Edwards. There will be a Luca replacement, and I'm kind of struggling on who to put there between Devin Booker and Auburn Sengun. Sengun for the fact that he is, representing the top two seed in the West, and I think you should have a guy there. At the same time, Devin Booker is just so fundamentally sound and fun to watch that it would be tough to keep him out of it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think I kind of landed in the same place as you, but I don't have JJJ in my reserves. I think he's been good, but I struggle to put him ahead of Şengün. But I did have Booker in my reserves ahead of Şengün, which
Okay.
is a little different. But we do need an
Yeah.
injury replacement for Luca.
Right.
Right. So then Şengün would make it. Şengün's just a little weird case because like he gets benched sometimes late game, not all the time, but sometimes.
Mhm.
He's statistically having a worse season than last year. He's not the top scorer on his team. He's
No.
very, very good. Do not get me wrong. He's also fourth in minutes per game on his team, if I remember correctly. So it's like interesting stuff with Şengün. You know, as good as I think he is, like I don't know. I think the Rockets themselves as a team are really, really good, right?
Right.
Then on the other side, though, I think the main competition for that last spot, the injury replacement spot, if I'm putting Booker on the bench, would be JJJ, and I can't put JJJ again ahead of Şengün personally. So that's just where I'm at. I think JJJ would be the next man up, and I think Şengün should be Luka's injury replacement. But
Mm.
in general, I think Booker's been also a little too good. And he's played. He only missed like 2 weeks. Since it was during Christmas, it really felt like a lot more. But he's played
Yeah.
like 38 games. He's been good. Feels bad to reward the Suns for their situation with two All Stars, but
Yeah.
I do think KD and Booker have been two of the top 12 players in the West this year. So
Yeah, it's hard to say like that balance between how good your team is, how good of an individual player you are, the injury histories that people have faced.
yeah,
It's just tough. Like,
the one guy here that I think we might just straight up be forgetting is Sabonis. So I think maybe
so,
I would put Sabonis over Şengün.
right.
Like I know
Um,
the king. This is the thing though. Like I feel bad not rewarding both the like in this case if I put Sabonis, so I think Sabonis is way better than Şengün right now. Um, but and Sabonis is averaging what 20, 21, 15, and like 7 or something.
yeah,
But if I put Şengün ahead of Sabonis and I leave off JJJ and if I leave off JJ and Şengün, I don't have all stars on two of the top three teams in the West, and like two
right,
teams missing the playoffs right now would get an all star.
right.
It's like a little
Well,
weird.
they're
And,
in the
and, and
play-in now, right?
yeah, but aren't the Warriors the Warriors drop someone whoever dropped lower than them, someone dropped lower than them.
Somebody did drop.
That's gonna get an all star. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's kind of my issue here is like I think Sabonis if I'm being real, Sabonis should probably make it actually over Booker. Um then I think I would rather have Booker be the replacement for Şengün than for Luca instead of Şengün, I should say.
Hmm.
But I feel weird leaving off both Şengün and JJJ. That's kind of my issue. If I had to predict, I think Booker would be left off. I think Şengün would make it, and I think Sabonis would make it. That's my prediction.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, but this has me kind of going on a different tangent real quick,
Mhm.
if I could.
Take it
Um,
away.
I was thinking of some like there. We just talked about some guys. There's going to be snubs. Here's like an all snub team. Ready? Is Jalen Brown, but potential snubs. Jalen Brown, Trae Young, De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Johnson, Zach LaVine, Devin Booker, Ja, Sengun, Halliburton. Even though he's had a bit of a down year, but the Pacers are in the playoffs now. Jalen
Jonathan.
Williams, Sabonis, Garland, Jared Allen, RJ Barrett. At least all star adjacent players, and maybe we can come up with more. I don't know
That's
why,
crazy.
and it is crazy, and I don't know why we do this. I don't understand why this has continued to be the case every year. The league has continued to expand since the inception of the league, I believe, or at least I know since the 1960s. There were 12 all stars in either conference consistently. Um, So when we had 8 teams in the NBA with 24 All Stars, if we multiply 8 teams to get to 30, that's about 3.8. If we multiply 24 spots by 3.8, we would have 90 total All Stars. We would have 45 All Stars on either side. Now, 45 All Stars is a ridiculously heinous thing to ask the NBA to change. But could we do 15 on either side? Could we just, and we can continue to include the injury reservation stuff, but the league has just continued to get better. We have all these all-star adjacent players that are not going to be there. We just had all these conversations about how Devin Booker has to miss an all-star appearance versus Sabonis, and then which of these guys on Memphis or Houston aren't going to get it. It's annoying. We shouldn't have to have these. We shouldn't have to not want, but thank the fact that we have injury replacement options. And so we don't need 90 all-stars, which would be the equivalent of what it is. But can we update this? Can we get this closer to 30, 32? I don't know. How does this sit with you? Do you feel like an all-star should
I'm
be
with it.
so more limited?
I'm with it actually. I was thinking about it. I don't think All Star appearances affect like supermax contracts. It's like based off All NBA, right? So I don't care about All Stars. We already have fan voting. Let's just make it bigger, especially with the new format with the teams getting
Mm-hmm.
split up and whatnot. I actually think more the better.
Yeah.
And we're about to have expansion too, right? So
Right.
yeah, let's get to 15, man. I mean, yeah, realistically, like I would love to just like Sabonis should be an All Star. Like
Yeah.
Sabonis should just 21, 14, and 7. If you're in the play-in game, you're the best player on that play-in team probably right now. You should be an
Right.
all-star. And that's kind of tough that yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough that you might not be an all-star. And we have so many stars today. It's such a star-driven league. Let's just get more of the bodies into the games and go from there. Uh, I think the quality of the game isn't going to get better, so let's just make the team roster composition better, right?
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
there's not really a way to make them start trying more. So
So let's make it more fun. Let's see
yeah.
more of the guys that we want to see in
And
an all-star. Yeah.
that's why I think the fan voting stuff is interesting. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think the way they do it now is pretty good, but why not lead all the way into it? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Um,
It's not like
well,
it affects
so
anything. It's not. It literally doesn't affect anything. All Star Game does not do anything for anyone. So Want to just have more
Right,
fun with it.
right. Because like I feel like the late Kobe years when he was injured and was not an All-Star player, that kind of ruined it a bit. D Wade and the Dirk
And
Nowitzki, all
Yao for 10 straight years where he'd play 20
right.
games and be all start as
It's like
starter. Well, the thing is, all those guys, as disrespectful as we are actually, yeah, Kobe by the end probably didn't deserve to be an all-star starter.
no,
Like,
he did not.
because Yao, the thing is, the center depth in the NBA was cooked. So Yao was the best center in the West. There were no centers. It was like him
But
and Andrew
wait,
Bynum.
in the
Um,
in the 2000s,
late 2010s, late
late 20
2000s,
late 2000s,
it was
who
just
else would you have had?
Him and Bynum in the West. It was
Was
old.
it
Shaq was too old.
because it was what a fixed center position, so you couldn't do like front court? Was that the
Oh,
case back
it
then?
might
I
have
think
been
that
fixed.
was the
Well,
case.
no, it was fixed center, two forwards, two guards. That's what it
That's
was.
right.
Right. So
Because
it was
who
just him
else?
or Bynum.
Because Duncan would he have been
Duncan
slotted to
power
the
forward
power
because
forward?
splitters starting center.
I'm thinking of like Stoudemire,
Sotomayor's power forward. No,
power forward. Yeah,
Boozer power forward. Al
power forward.
Jefferson probably not as good.
Probably. I mean, yeah, not a. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the thing. Like that was a weird. Like that's like the Elton Brand type beats.
Right,
Like power forward.
right. Chris
Chris Kaman
Kaman.
got a All Star nod. You
Right.
know
Yeah,
because
that was
like
crazy.
yeah. So anyways, that's long story short. We should totally expand, and
Yeah,
I think, and then you know what? Then if a fan vote does get in someone if it is Kobe and you're fucking 16 who's making it with the fan vote, maybe I feel less bad because there's 14 other slots to be had.
except the one thing is, remember when Zaza Pachulia was like heavily in that one year? Zaza Pachulia was super far up in the
Yeah,
fan
you're
voting.
right. It is good that we have like some sort of check and
There's some
balance.
safety guard. Yeah,
Yeah. The thing is,
yeah,
like that was crazy. I do remember that, but because like when that does stand out to me is like the Wiggins one, but Wiggins didn't deserve to be an All Star starter. But that year the West was really shallow, and he
yeah,
was going to be an All Star kind of
yeah.
like just given the situation. Um, so yeah, like that's like maybe we're critiquing it too much. Maybe the voting system they have now is good, and we just want to see a bigger
I
pool of
think yeah,
players.
just more
And then
players.
if there's more players and they want to do honorable, like they want to do Dwayne Wade All-Star appearance at the end, I didn't like it, but so be it. Then
Yeah,
we're fully in a ceremonious mode instead of like trying to compete at the All-Star game. Because I think that's the way they should go. I think the All-Star game, I think that's my new take, because I think the All-Star game's cooked and it needs to become like a ceremonious thing. And we need to like lean
right.
more into that.
Yeah.
Because the best All-Star game in recent times was like or like
Was
one of
it
the most fun was the top 75 one where they brought everyone
yeah,
out,
right. The
and it's like,
Cleveland, the LeBron hitting the game winner.
yeah, like, and maybe that's kind of the way we raise the stakes a little bit more, making
Yeah,
it more of like a legacy ceremonious thing rather than like hey, you need to compete. Like, I
right.
don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then the big competition stuff can be in the 3-point shootout and in the dunk contest.
Yeah.
If players decide that they want to
They need
actually
to
care
do a
about the
million
dunk
dollar
contest,
bounty. They need to do $1 million bounty on the dunk contest,
they
man. Like,
should.
I can't
They
believe it.
totally should.
The thing is,
Yeah,
like, the teams are just going to be like, dude, I don't want to send my guy to the dunk contest. I don't want him to get hurt.
right. Ugh, it's a shame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way to fix that. That's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's just guys have to agree to that they want to go out there and do it.
Yeah, and I wish there was a way the NBA. Yeah, I hope that players are just fully able to just go do the dunk contest on their own should they want to. Like, because I think also it's like a great marketing opportunity. I mean, dude, can you? Blake Griffin probably made like $50 million over the course of his life just based off that one dunk contest win.
Oh, yeah. The
Like
Kia
the Kia
over
deals.
the
Like,
over the hood of the car.
yeah, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I still see Kias today. And that's all I think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a terminology when, sorry for younger listeners, when you are, uh, if you're smoking a bowl of marijuana, you call it a Blake Griffin because you pack it above the rim. So shout out Blake Griffin and Kia.
We're gonna get a crazy med card sponsorship.
Yeah.
That's insane. With that, I think that's everything we had on All Stars. All Stars. Do you want
Yeah.
to get into mid-season awards?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's do it. So
All
we are
right,
halfway through the season for most teams. What, but like between 44 and 40 games for most teams.
sir.
Damn. All right, Max. You want to take us away?
Yeah, let's just start with MVP. We're just gonna go down the list. I mean,
Yeah.
for some of these, we'll have more analysis than others.
Yeah.
MVP right now, the favorite, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mm. Hooper.
Respectfully, he's been amazing. He
Absolute
should be the
Hooper.
top two in voting this year, in my opinion. He's
Oh,
scoring 32 a
interesting.
game. I think Jokic is just clearly the best player in the NBA. Um, I would have Jokic as my MVP. I know they're the Nuggets are also not in that bad. I mean, they're 28 and 16, so I can't really like fault him in standings compared to Shea that much. Um, and really, I really think Jokic is by far the best player in the NBA.
This is a tricky one. Um, I honestly wouldn't have an issue with Shea winning it. This is starting to feel like a LeBron 2010 situation where
100%.
other guys won it. I think the only time where he probably wasn't the best player was like the Steph Curry 2015, 2016 season, but he should have won it. He should have won it the Russell Westbrook triple double year, but that was a historical thing. The KD one, that was nice, but LeBron was still the best player. He was still the best player when James Harden won it in 2017, 2018.
And obviously was the
Um,
best player though with D Rose year, but also D Rose year,
right.
he got beat pretty handily in voting, if
He
I
did.
remember correctly. Like in the moment, people were pretty clearly like,
Right. So it's like, to your point, I think this is the best season that Jokic has had. 30, 13 and a half, and 10, shooting 48% from three. We just saw that crazy shot that he made recently. He can literally do everything on the court. He's now a plus defender, unbelievable leader, triple doubles in his last five straight games or something without playing in the fourth quarter for any of them. And not only that, this might be the best stat of all of it. It's not even a stat. He's made Russell Westbrook a great player again.
great player. You said it on the
Like,
pod too. You literally called it on the pod. I was literally laughing at you on our podcast before the season, and you were right.
it just goes to show. It's like, where was this when he was on when Westbrook was on the Lakers? He couldn't have just cut like crazy and LeBron find him in the middle of at the free throw line. He
Yeah,
couldn't have done
but
that.
Jokic creates so much spacing. I think that's another thing.
That's
He knows
true.
that he creates so much spacing.
Yeah.
I think Jokic is clearly the most valuable player in the league too. Like I know LeBron is like was the best player in the league, but when he was playing on a team with D Wade and Bosh, you could make the argument that if you took off LeBron from the Heat in some of those
Yeah.
years, they'd still be a top four seed. And so like that was the year Rose won it. Like that was one of
Yeah.
the arguments against them.
Right.
And so like my thing is with Jokic, if you took Jokic off this team, they'd be terrible. Aaron Gordon
It'd
was
be
out for two
awful.
months. Like I know the Thunder wouldn't be that great too, but they'd be fine. And I know Chet's
They
been hurt, but whatever.
they
And
they
I'm kind of gaslighting both ways, but I think they'd be comparable. And then I think Jokic is just so much better. I literally just think the yeah, respectfully, this Shea's best season, which is this year, has no match for Jokic's best season, which is this year.
it doesn't even have a match for Jokic's last like three seasons.
And this is Jokic. This is Jokic's best year. This is Jokic's
Yeah.
best ever. This is Jokic's career best season. So like, I can't give it to anyone else. He should be this year. I really feel strongly he should have his fourth MVP this year. And I know,
Yeah.
and I think there's a good chance SGA wins it, and I will not be mad because I think he's clearly the second. It's like last year when like I was like, if Luka won it, I wouldn't be pissed, but I thought it should be Jokic. I think it'd be the same situation this year.
Mhm.
But like, I really do think it should be Jokic. This is literally Jokic's best year. If he doesn't win it, I'll be a little disappointed.
The head-to-head matchups will be big here coming up. Those will be huge. If both of them are healthy when they're playing each other, SGA and Jokic, I think that will be a tell for sure.
This is voter fatigue, right? Like Doug, you're saying, like this is just voter fatigue, right? Like, I'm not tweaking about this, right?
Well,
I don't want to be
yeah.
rude to SGA, but like,
Well,
this,
Jokic is getting better and better and better, which is crazy, and that's why he's still in this conversation. Whereas with LeBron, he had reached this like apex as the best player, and like there wasn't much better for him to get.
yeah, exactly. But it's like Jokic, like the team makes it harder on him, and then Jokic plays better. And I'm not really like they lose KCP, Jokic ups his scoring by 5 points per game
Yeah,
and ups his 3 point scoring by 10 percentage points.
yeah,
Like,
insane. Yeah, it's insane.
anyways, that's why I have to have Jokic as my MVP. But really, I do understand if SJ is your MVP. That said, anyone outside of that, I think there's a big gap. After that, I think it's like Giannis, Tatum, Wemby, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, none of those, unless there's a injury, knock on wood again, from the top two
Mhm.
guys, those guys will not enter this fray. Although I think Giannis is should be the third best odds here,
I agree.
but it's
But
pretty far away from
I
me.
do think Donovan Mitchell should be top five though. Funny enough.
I mean, best player in the best team, right?
Yeah. But do
It's
you
the
remember
argument.
before the season when I was throwing that out there? The thing
You
is like
were,
the best possible situation has gone down for Donovan Mitchell and he still is not a top four MVP guy. So it's still
yeah,
pretty poor
yeah.
prediction.
Just
Um
goes to say,
yeah. With that, you want to move on to most improved player? I think
yes,
there's
sir.
some favorites here, but this is where we get into like the nitty-gritty of the actual award, which I really like. So right now the favorite is Cade Cunningham, who is obviously having a career season, up to scoring by like 6 points, like the Pistons are really good, etc. But some of us picked Cade Cunningham to be a top 30 player in the league this year before going into the season, and it might not be super surprising. That
Yeah.
said, other guys on this list like Norman Powell, Evan Mobley, Tyler Hero, Dyson Daniels, J Dub, and Wemby. I think it should be Norman Powell, but
Mm.
I can kind of under you can go many different directions with this. I wouldn't be too mad. I kind of just Norman Powell just up to scoring by 10 points. The Clippers are really good. He didn't get any worse in terms of percentages. It's kind of a pretty unique season for me, and I kind of want to see him win it. Um, Mobley's been really good too. That's kind of I lean closer to Powell and Mobley than to Cade, but yeah,
So you go with Norman Powell.
yeah, that's what I would do.
I think that's solid. This goes back to the age old question that I think we've now had for the third time. This being the third NBA season that we've had. Between, do you pick the guy that was like a solid role player to like back of the bench and made this big jump into serious rotation player, or do you take the guy that was all star adjacent and then they took this huge jump, like the Ja Morant Most Improved Player award from a couple of years ago? Yeah, because I struggle with this because you could say the same thing for a Dyson Daniels, right? Who went from last season 6 points per game, 1.4 steals per game, which is still pretty impressive. Uh, you know, 4 boards a game, all the way up to 14, 5, 4, and 3 steals per game. The great barrier thief. And been helping out that Atlanta team. So it's tough. I'm actually going to go though in the Cade Cunningham direction this year for the simple reason that, and might have some more Pistons love later on in this pod, but the Pistons weren't supposed to be this good. They've already surpassed their win total projection, and we're halfway through the year. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think
And
that's super fair.
and so I think it's the leadership element to it. I love the fact that him and Jalen Green are going at each other. I love the fact that him and like the Pistons and the Pacers are going at each other. I love that rivalry element. So maybe there's some emotion kind of happening here for me, but the fact that he's up to 25, 9.5 assists, 6.5 boards this year, all those jumping up by 2 points, shooting the three percentage at a higher volume. For me, that kind of takes the cake. But again, the issue is that it's like there's almost like two types of most improved players.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And I will say, like, I think if I were to bet on this, like, most I would expect Cade to win it. Like, if you look at historically what the MIP has been, it's been closer to guys scoring 25 points per game for the last like 5 to 10 years rather than
Yeah,
guys scoring like 15 points per game. That said, I know
yeah,
Powell's scoring like 23 a game, but I just mean in terms of the realm of type player, like this is the type of player it is. It's the Siakams, it's the Brandon Ingrams, the Julius Randles, the John Morants, the Laurie Markkinens, the Tyrese Maxeys. These are top 40 players in the NBA.
yeah,
Very rarely do we get a Goran Dragic most improved player. And even
yeah.
he at the time was quite good, 20 points per game. So
Well, he was
um
an All NBA guy that year, I
yeah,
believe.
if I remember, yeah. That was the very fun, weird Suns teams, and they had like
The
Bledsoe, Goron,
yeah,
and IT. Um,
48 wins and couldn't make the playoffs.
yeah, they're what a weird time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would do Powell because I think the jump has just been that big. And I think a few years ago when Ja won it, I would have rather have seen Bane or Poole have won it, and for
Mm,
similar reasons because of the unexpected nature of it. That said, we don't have a Laurie Markkinen this year, where Laurie was really like that was a good synthesis between unexpected and you're now really, really good. Um,
yeah.
so I can kind of go different ways. I would still tend to go Powell. I would because the thing is, Cade might be an All NBA guy. If he's gonna be an All NBA guy, let's go give Norman Powell the most improved player. So
Sure.
but he also might not be. So we'll see.
Yeah. There we have
Um,
it.
uh, with that defense player of the year, do you want to say it on 30?
Yeah. One,
One,
two,
two,
three.
three. Victor Wembanyama.
Wemby.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Same thing.
Um, Imagine I just said Zubats or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'd yeah, this is his award to win for the next 10 years. I don't think it's really close. Bam, and AD and guys like that, I think we're in the realm, but Wemby is just way better than that. So defensively. So
Um, I was trying to look up some stats, and one that I found, this is from November, so I'm not sure if it's changed. I'd be surprised if it's gotten worse.
yeah.
Is in November of 2024, opponents were shooting 35.5% at the rim in comparison to 62% as the league average. He's averaging 4 blocks per game and a steal. Uh, I don't have too much to analyze here. I just feel like he's also very switchable. He's pretty nimble. He can guard smaller players too, because he can just, if they blow by him, he can just catch up to them and then block
Yeah.
them from behind. So I think he's really good help side defense as well, and he's getting better guarding his guys straight up. So I don't know who else should be here.
Yeah, I don't think there's even a conversation.
No,
Like for example, I mean, and blocks and steals are just like not the stats that are the end all be all. But do you remember I was talking about like box plus minus like
yeah,
last week, and I was talking about
yeah,
how
yeah,
and this is a stat that favors bigs. But I was talking about how like Dennis Smith Jr. with a 1.8 defensive box
mm,
plus minus was basically Marcus Smart level defense slash it was like
right,
for a year.
yeah.
Um, according to defensive box plus minus, Wemby's at double that at 3.6. So
Oh,
like uh,
wait,
it's
that's
actually
crazy.
yeah, it's actually ridiculous. So and also like if we want to have some more fun with it, I mean Brooke Lopez is fourth in the league in blocks per game with 2. If you double that, that's Wemby in first.
Yeah,
You know,
wow,
so the gaps are not close here. No one else in the league is above 3 stocks a game, if I remember correctly, and he's at basically 5.
insane.
That's steals plus blocks, and it's like I'm giving you all the stats. It's just eye test. He's just clearly the best defensive player. There's just not
Yeah,
even like, in my opinion, there's just not even a conversation.
yeah.
So
Not much to talk about for that.
yeah.
So
But yeah.
I'm with you.
Um,
Um,
Now we can get to another one where I think we're gonna have consensus, and I think this is actually one that you predicted many times in this podcast. It's the sixth
yeah.
man of the year. I've got Peyton Pritchard.
I'm with you, and I'm pissed that he wasn't even an option on fantasy or FanDuel or DraftKings
He
to
wasn't.
start the season. I friggin' hate it. The plus 10,000 guys were there. I was ready to toss $10 his way, $15 his way. That would have been nice. So shout out to FanDuel and DraftKings for not
That would
even
have been
giving him the
crazy.
option. Um, I do not want to run a victory lap, although I will,
You
that
should.
he wasn't even listed. Part of this was just kind of vibes, but the fact that, I mean, as a fan of your own team, you pay a little bit more attention to some of the nuances of the team and the increased run that he was getting throughout the playoffs with Porzingis being out.
Offensive
Um,
trust.
yeah, just offensive trust. He's been amazing. He has kind of slowed down a little bit, but still averaging 14, 3.5, and a steal. He's shooting 41% on 8 attempts per game. It's just a huge spark plug for the Celtics when their offense is just like cooked and not cooking. Uh, so, yeah. But I did have a couple of shout outs. I feel like Malik Monk could have had some attention here if he hadn't started too many games. He's just started too many games, so I don't think he'll count. The other guy that I would have loved, before we get into another serious one, would have been Westbrook. His odds are way too high, so I don't think he's just going to get it. But the way he's been playing has been super fun. Multiple triple doubles, just really helping elevate this team. Curious to see if he'll even really count based on the number of games that he started. But the other guy that I actually think has better odds than the plus 750 is Emman Thompson.
I was gonna say the same. I
Yeah,
actually was about to say something about him and Thompson. I literally think the only reason he's at plus 750 is because he's gonna start too many games because Jabari Smith's out.
right.
Like he, in my opinion, should probably be second. When we were talking about Şengün, I was trying to allude to this, but I think like in terms of impact, like he and Ben Thompson's impact on a basketball game is absurd. I actually
Mhm.
basketball's gonna change a lot, I feel like, because the athleticism level of some of these guys, like even if they can't shoot, it almost doesn't matter. Like I watch the Thompson twins, bro. You have to play them. You have to play them.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if they can't shoot. Like I don't care.
yeah.
They're game wreckers, right? So and men specifically, ever since Jabari's been out, has been unplayable. Really unplayable. And these guys cannot shoot a lick, the Thompson twins, and I think that is good. So
Yeah.
but a men's up to 13 starts, Jabari's still out. He's gonna keep starting.
True.
I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the issue there. I have some shouts. I think I just want to shout
Yeah.
out DeAndre Hunter. I mean, he's been amazing. 19
Yeah.
points per game, 40% from three, 45% from the field. Um, kind of revived. He got revived. It's funny, this first 5 years in the NBA, he was literally just the same player every year. It felt like he did get a little better over the last 2 years, but a little bit injury prone at the same time. Now he's just fully off the bench playing really well. I think he would probably be second if the season ended. If the season ended today, I think a men would be second for me. I just think he started a lot of games that will be off the ballot soon for me. But DeAndre
Sure.
Hunter would be third. But then, funnily enough, fourth, I would have Naz Reid. I think Naz Reid is actually not getting enough look for this award. I think you could argue he's I don't know. I think he's closer to this breadth of Pritchard and Amen Thompson than the breadth of in terms of this award than the breadth of like Bobby Portis and Ty Jerome.
hmm
Um, like Naz Reid has been just as good as he was last year, if not better. Just the team has been worse. He himself has been really, really good. And I think he's kind of getting penalized for the T-Wolves struggles a little bit.
I totally think you're right. And there was a huge Nas Reed push a couple seasons ago,
Mhm.
and I think that that's kind of been lost a little bit. But yeah, he's putting up very good numbers.
I mean, he won it last year, right? But and his stats have just stayed just good. So
Yeah.
like,
So
and his
sorry,
influence on the
buddy.
game is still really good. Like, it's just the Julius Randle situation.
Yeah. 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 It's very true. Yeah, but you don't get you just don't his last 10, wow, he's been absolutely playing out of his mind. 17, 6, 54% from the three. Yeah. He's hooping.
Really, really good.
One other thing I want to say on the Amen Thompson piece of it is that even though he's only shooting like under 30% from three this year, the fact that he's taking the majority of his shots at the rim, and he's shooting almost 70% on those shots at the rim, like any
That's
any shot
crazy.
less than 5 feet.
That's crazy
So
stuff.
that's all you need, and it's friggin' unbelievable. That is his no, that's not as effective. Yeah, that's his field goal percentage at the rim. So to your point, maybe we are starting to get to this, like, I mean, because we've seen it with Josh Hart type guys before, and Josh Hart can shoot, but he's not a shooter. And for a while, it was like turning towards this. If you can't shoot and you're not like some unbelievable defensive center, what are you doing on the court? And now we're starting to see these hybrid guys that can cut really well and just be facilitators and score in other ways.
It's almost because there's so many stretch centers now that like
Mm,
you can afford to just have a non-shooting swing.
yeah,
It's like the Rockets when they traded Capella and started playing PJ Tucker at center, and then they're running a four-person shooting lineup with Russell Westbrook as their only like
right.
non-shooter. That was the first time I ever saw that, and that really struck a chord with me, like still to this day. And I think Amen Thompson like an evolutionary version. Like those Rockets team was like
Mm,
an evolutionary version of that. And also like not shooting or non-shooting, Amen Thompson is also like an amazing passer, gets to the rack. Like offensively, he's not a minus. And I don't really know how. Like, to be honest, like a non-shooting guard who doesn't have the ball a ton shouldn't be a positive on
It's good.
offense. But
Yeah,
Men Thompson is clearly a positive on offense. So that's like something I'm looking at more now. Because I think Josh Hart's a little bit closer to like still an energy player to me, as much as the
hmm
series made huge strides in passing and even in scoring and shooting and whatnot. He's still closer to an energy player. Men Thompson, it's weird. I can't put my finger on it, but I think he affects the game so aggressively because I can't say that I think Şengün is that amazing, and I think he's really good. He'll be an all star this year. I can't say that Jalen Green's been amazing this year, but I think they just have these guys who have like intangibles is such a shitty word because it's like you're just calling something. You're just trying to call something. You say give a term to something that you don't have a word for. That's what
yeah.
intangibles is, right? But like it's kind of what it feels like with the men. It's like
It's an eye test thing.
yeah, I can't really describe why he's so good offensively. He just is. He just gets to the rack. He creates, he makes things happen. He's explosive. He doesn't need to shoot the ball at all, and he's still
Mm,
effective. Doesn't even have the ball half the time, and he's still effective. It's like really
right.
crazy.
Yeah. No,
It's
he's
like
unreal.
it's sorry now I'm
Yeah.
like on this track, but it's like when you have to guard Giannis a little bit at the 3 point line because if he gets 2 steps running to the hoop, you get a blocking charge called against you no matter what. And it's
Mm,
like a men in a weird way. It's even though he can't shoot, you still have to pay attention because if he gets 2 steps on you, he just has a layup because he just finishes 70% of his stuff at the rim, you know?
yeah.
And it's kind of like a reverse Steph Curry, you
Yeah.
know, it's like in a really
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
way. It's like
Yeah.
Steph shoots 45% from 33 feet, and it's like Amen Thompson shoots like 80% at the rim.
Right.
Like, I think that's where I'm at with it. But it's a really fun development in basketball, NBA basketball. I love it.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on this trend. It's
Yeah,
very exciting.
100%. Moving on. Anyways, we said we were gonna skip clutch player, but I also think just Jokic is gonna be the clutch player and probably deserves to be. Um, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can come back to clutch player later on. I have to look up some clutch stats.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think like just off the top of my head, I think Jokic just kind of ring true to me. Coach of the year, I think is the next one that we got. The
Yes,
next one
sir.
after this will be rookie of the year, and that'll be it for us. But coach of the year, I think pretty clearly there was a coaching hire that absolutely elevated his team this offseason. Uh, it's Kenny Atkinson. I kind of think he has to be coach of the year as much as I want it to be Jamal Mosley or Taylor Jenkins. I think both of them deserve a lot of credit for the way their teams have performed despite a bunch of injuries.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely nothing about the Cavs roster changed this past year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his ability, Ty Jerome started to get more run and there was development. But I think to your point, he's been absolutely unbelievable. So I do hear that. Though I'm going to go in a different direction. And the odds here are not great for this guy. He's plus 2,000. I'm going to go with JB Bickerstaff.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And kind of for the same reason, I started my apology tour for the Pistons when they were a measly 7-8, 15 games into the year. And now they remain in the 6th seed and they're 23-21, I believe. Again, the Pistons have already surpassed their expected win total. He took how many games did they win last year? Like 20 something? Not a lot.
Yeah. So 14, actually. They won 14 last year on Monday.
14. So
Terrible.
they don't have really any new players. And the only difference is a coach that you hate is now gone.
Mhm.
And JB Bickerstaff, and sorry, the coach that I'm referring to here is Monty Williams,
Mhm.
who Max preached,
Famously shredded on this podcast
famously
multiple
shredded
times,
ad
many,
nauseum
many times.
the lack of player development that was going on.
Mhm.
But now we have this really, really fun kind of cohesion with, I mean, Jaden Ivey, hopefully he comes back in time for the playoffs in late March is, I think, when he's expected to come back. But, having a Star Thompson, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren still, making some steps, Big Stu. And then a nice blending of Malik Beasley, who's been playing very well this year. Tobias Harris been playing very well this year, and Tim Hardaway Jr. Whatever, but he's a guy that's in that rotation as well and playing a lot of games. So I'm very impressed by this team. I did not see them. I think we both bet the over on them to start, but I had the over for it was 22 and a half. I had
I
the
had the
over for
over for
maybe
28 games, or 28 wins, not 28 wins by the All-Star break.
22. It was 22
Yeah, but
wins.
I just mean like well,
Oh,
when I said the
oh,
over,
you guessed.
I thought they were gonna get to 28 wins, not
Right.
28 wins by the All-Star break.
Exactly.
Like which
It's
is like pretty
it's
much the pace they're at.
exactly. So that's my guy. Again, Kenny Atkinson makes the most sort of conceptual sense because Mark Dadnall already won last year, right?
I honestly can't remember who won it last year. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Um, so I think just there's even more fatigue if you've been a coach. I think that's the reason why so few coaches have won multiple times. But yeah, so that's where I'm going with the coach of the year.
Sounds totally fair. I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think the gaps with Atkinson are just too big. But I
Yeah.
think it's totally valid. With that, I think our last award now,
Yes, sir.
Rookie of the Year. This is probably the hardest award and probably the
Spicy.
one that may change the most between now and the end of the year. Um, right now the favorite, which has changed a lot over the last 2 weeks, is Kalel. We're at plus 200, but there's
Yeah.
four different players at plus 400 or under. That's Jalen Wells, Alexander Sarr, Stephon Castle, and Kalel Ware. I'm gonna be honest. This might be personal. Like eye test and whatnot, and I've watched a lot of him this year. I think Alex Sarr is like pretty clearly the rookie of the year for me. I think
Mm.
Stephon Castle is in the conversation, but Sarr was good enough to get Valanciunas benched early on this season. Defensively, he has been incredibly good. Offensively, not great. The hand up, obviously, like I don't think he's been very good offensively, but he's still scoring 12 a game, which is I think close to leading the rookie class. If we take out McCain due to injury. Um, I think Sarr is almost up to two. He's almost up to 2 blocks a game. He's almost up to a steal a game. If he gets up to like 3 stocks a game, it's gonna be pretty hard for me to vote against him. And it already is pretty hard for me to vote against him. I mean, he's started 40 games. I know it's a terrible team, but started 40 games, played 30 minutes a game, been really good defensively. Unfortunately, with this class, that's probably good enough to win Rookie of the Year for me. I think Colbert is great and all. He's been playing well for like 3 weeks. He's got 2 starts this season.
Yeah, this is a really weird rookie class that had a runaway rookie of the year candidate before he got hurt. I guess that's the biggest mid-season, season-ending injury that we've had so far in
Probably.
Jared McCain. So he
Yeah.
would have been the obvious guy. That's obviously over. Um, I'm going to go in a different direction just because I've watched a little bit of him recently, and he played really well against the Celtics, and I watched him against the Pelicans last night. But Jalen Wells for me has
Oh,
been
he's incredibly good. He's incredibly good.
he's been so good, putting up 12 points per game, 3 and 2, 39% from three on 5 attempts. He's averaging 26 minutes per game. He's started in 40 of 45 games for a top 3 to 4 seed in the West. Yeah, a team that at this rate will have home court advantage. He's a starting point guard. Um, he's a starting guard alongside with John Morant. Is essentially kind of supplanting Marcus Smart
He
and Scottie
literally
Pippen Jr.
he literally got Marcus Smart benched, pretty much.
Yeah. So for me, I think that this is one of those ones where it could go in any direction. To your point, there's no obvious guy here. And so I'm going to go in the direction of the rookie that joined a team that was not very good last year just due to injuries and now is playing very meaningful basketball on a team that's trying to contend and make some noise in the playoffs this year. So I'm going to go Jalen Williams.
I'm with it. Can I say I love this class in terms of how close it all is because like
Yeah.
I think these 4 guys I would not if any of these 4 won the award I would not be surprised or mad.
Mm-hmm.
But like if Yves Missi averaged 12 and 12 for the rest of the season, would you be surprised? Like not necessarily. Like
Right.
I don't know. And then now he's in this conversation. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. I do want to highlight Jalen Wells just because I think 40 games starting, playing a shooting guard role, playing a guard role at times. It'll be him and Bain playing 2 guard lineups.
Yep.
Um, then other nights he's got to be the 6'7", like guy guarding small forwards, big small forwards. He's got to guard LeBron sometimes. Like I have a lot of respect for what Jalen Wells is doing this season. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's really hard. I would love to see more out of Kalel Ware because if Kalel Ware continues what he's doing, like he'll probably be rookie of the year. Just
Mm,
because I think the high end ceiling of what's going on is really impressive.
yeah.
But if like the season ended today, I would actually probably put Kalel Ware behind the three of Sar, Castle, and Wells. I would probably go Sar, Wells, Castle, Ware.
Well, he's been playing unbelievable the last few games, Khalil.
Yeah, I can't flame him at all.
Him and yeah.
Uh, I just will say on the Castle point, I can see some people being mad about Castle. I think
Ah,
Castle's great and all, but I think he's pretty poor offensively still at this point. Like I think he's
mhm.
a very minus offensive player still. Um, which is
Right.
fine. He's really young, but you play with Wemby. Let's get together a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think there's not enough of an argument for him in a really crowded field.
Yeah. But I,
So
I like the Wells pick. Yeah.
thank you.
With that, I think that's all
I
the
think that's
awards. Did we miss anything? Is there comeback player of the year in the
there's no comeback player in the year.
NBA?
Yeah, a bit of a shorter pod today.
Yeah. Wait, do you want to actually we forgot one part that actually we need to respond to two comments from
Oh,
our
let's hear him.
videos, actually. Yes. So one of these is from 10 days ago. So sorry, Havoc 369. He responded to our video about the Kings, saying the Kings are a top one offense, a top five defense after firing Mike Brown. LOL. I think the Kings are two solid bench pieces away from being a Western Conference Finals contender, assuming Keegan, Ellis, Carter develop. It's not far to see this team make the Western Conference Finals. Do you think anyone outside of OKC, Denver, and maybe Memphis or Houston are significantly better than this Kings team right now? I don't.
Okay.
Do you
Oh,
want to? Do you want to? So there's
yeah.
multiple parts to this. I think, respectfully, we're also revisiting this this comment at a time after the Kings just had a pretty rough loss against Denver. Obviously they got off to a pretty good stretch the Doug Christie era, right? But um,
So they're 8-2 in their last 10.
respectfully, Havoc 369. I can't say that I see this team beating the Mavericks in a playoff series. Um, so I'll add them to the list besides OKC and Denver. Um, and yeah, Memphis or Houston, I think would beat them pretty handily. As much as I
I
think
mean,
those teams are
yeah.
good matchups for Sacramento, you know.
You gotta okay. So what was his name? Havoc 369. Great name,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. Havoc 369. Thank you for listening. Thank you for
Kind of
weighing
goes
in.
hard as a gamer
Yeah,
tag.
absolutely. And I love that you're a Light the Beamer. Maybe you're a SAC fan, maybe you're just a general NBA fan. The thing is, in order for what you think is going to happen where they make the Western Conference Finals, they need to win two straight playoff appearances. And maybe, we're missing some context here. Maybe you're saying that that's their ceiling and we're negging on that. I'm just going to say I don't think that they could even win the first round playoff series because they would have to make sure that they make it to the 7-8 game, which they're currently not in, even though they are tied with the Timberwolves at 8-9. I think the Mavs have a lot more upside to go. Kawhi is back, so I think that's going to continue to improve. The Lakers have been playing solidly, and then those top four teams, there's no reason why any of them are going to continue to slow down. So if you make that 7-8 game, that's the first step to have a shot at that 7 seed, which in theory would get you to maybe playing against the Rockets, the Grizzlies. But look out, the Nuggets are on a tear too. So you might end up playing the Nuggets or OKC in the first round, and then if that happens, it's definitely
You
not
go
going to
home.
happen. So you would need to not only win the 7-8 game, but you would need to have Houston or Memphis feel some bright lightification situation going on. That's the only way for what you're describing to have happened. So for that reason, I'm out.
Mark, you've been looking. Yeah, It's like let's go down the line. I mean, do you think Fox is better than Ja? Like, do you think the depth like do you think Fox is better than Ja? Do you think Bane and Ja? Do you think Bane and JJJ are better than Sabonis, or do you think Sabonis and DeRozan are better than Bane and JJJ in the playoffs?
Right.
Like, we can go down the line, and it's like maybe if I give you everything, maybe if I give the Kings the benefit of the doubt at every single matchup,
Yeah.
I could get to this point of thinking. But there's a lot of assumptions being made. Assuming Keegan, Ellis, and Carter develop, it's not far to see this team can make the Western Conference Finals. There's a lot of assumptions there.
Yeah.
Keegan Murray has been really good defensively
Yeah.
at times this season. He's struggled offensively at times this season. Keon Ellis has never played 30 minutes a game for a consistent stretch as much as he should. He's really good. And Devin Carter was in the G League 2 weeks ago, as good as he has been. Like, let's
Let's pump the brakes.
Let's pump the brakes. They're two solid bench pieces away from being a Western Conference Finals contender. Who's that going to be? You gonna trade
Right.
Trey Lyles? You gonna trade Trey Lyles and a pick? Like if trades happen, I'm down to revisit this. But your top one offense and top five defense after firing Mike Brown. I gave that credit in that video too, but that doesn't I think they have three of the best on ball defenders in the league in Fox, Keegan Murray, and Keon Ellis, right? But that said, there's still a pretty big talent gap, and there's also a team that has made one playoff series, right?
Yeah. And, you have DeRozan brings in a ton of veteran experience but even if you play Memphis, who at this moment, even if you had a solid bench piece or two, is still deeper than the Kings
Oh,
with
way
their 10, 11 man lineup. And then also, so are the Rockets. I think the Rockets are the only team here, based on their lack of playoff experience, even though they have Dylan Brooks. Right, and they have Fred VanVleet, who's an NBA champion. So you still have some veteran experience there,
bar injury, right? And like
barring injury,
if we're predicting injuries, it's like, yeah, sure, like Jokic is gonna tear his ACL and SGA is gonna tear his ACL and Kings makes Western Conference Finals, right? Like, sure, like I don't know, but I think like it's one of these, like, if you're gonna make all these assumptions that are pro Kings, I think you should give other teams some benefit of the doubt. Like, who's to say Memphis doesn't package a few players for Cam Johnson?
Right.
And so like you also need to operate with like the reality is that just because even if everything went perfectly for the Kings, some things may go correctly for other teams, so and even if things just go correctly for Houston and Memphis, they shouldn't even be in the same, like, in a similar conversation as the Kings. So that's my reaction. So sorry, I feel like we're bashing Havoc.
No. I think Havoc 369. Please, I hope you end up listening to this. And the fact that you had us break down your take in so much detail means that it's not such a bad take to the point where we're like laughing at it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also plausible. This is like a
Yes.
plausible take. Like, if Keegan, Ellis, and Carter arrived this season and you got two solid bench pieces,
Yep.
you could be a Western Conference Finals contender. Those statements are true, but
Yes.
those are just a lot of assumptions. Like, if you want to stand on that prediction, put your money on that prediction. Like, I have to like respect that 100%. But like, you put five different conditional statements in here. If two solid bench pieces, if Keegan, Ellis, Carter develop, so that's five different things that like.
Then you could be a Western Conference contender.
Yes, yes.
There's a lot. Havoc 369. I love this take, but there's a lot of conditionals, like Max is saying, and the final outcome is a conditional in of itself that they could be a Western Conference contender.
Going back to the last part of this though, where he says, "Who do we think is better than Kings right now?"
Yeah.
Not, this is also not to be disrespectful. Like, just off the top of my head, who I think would be pretty favored and I would pick to beat the Kings in a playoff series: Nuggets, Grizzlies, Rockets, Thunder, potentially the Lakers, potentially the Clippers. And then that's not even counting the Mavericks, who obviously have injuries right now. And that's not also counting the T-Wolves, who are playing as poorly as they could. So, that's like, there's like 8 teams who could be.
There's a lot of things. Yeah.
And on the other hand, y'all could beat the Lakers. Y'all could beat the Clippers. Y'all could beat the T-Wolves 100%. Like, these are, y'all could beat the Rockets. These are non-zero chances, but it's like, again, A lot of
But then you
assumptions, a
got
lot
to,
of things. Yeah,
yeah,
you gotta go play the Nuggets around two. Then you
right,
gotta go to
yeah.
Denver, game
Then
one
you're
and game
cooked.
two, and lose by 40,
Yeah.
you know?
So in essence, hey, if we're back here in late April and this has happened, we will, I don't know, we'll send you a fruit basket or something.
Yeah. But thank you for the comment, and
Yeah.
we'll keep responding to these. It's fun. There is one more actually
Yes, let's hear it.
from Deepak Nambisan 3251. We're gonna call you Deepak.
What up,
Um,
Deepak?
on January 21st, is 4 days ago, he responded to our Joel Embiid video saying, Sixers fan here. He's had some bad luck, but I'm convinced that his health would have stayed materially better if he had kept himself in shape. Hard enough for a 7-footer to stay healthy without being 30 pounds overweight, drinking pitchers of Shirley Temples, and having a Chick-fil-A black card. It's a shame. I would also prefer if he kept quiet more often and off SM social media. Saying he's obviously more talented than Jokic? Question mark. That's a bold take, in my humble opinion.
Mm,
So first of all, roasting Joel Embiid's weight aside, because weight or not, he's been a terrifically effective NBA player um, at a lot of times in his career. Um, you know, what if he had been 30 pounds skinnier, not drinking pitchers of Shirley Temple, and didn't have a Chick-fil-A black card? I think he'd probably be better. And if what he is now was someone who beat Jokic for an MVP, is it that much crazier to say that with all those improvements, he could be better than Jokic or have more talent? Like, I don't know. I feel like you kind of proved our point on the stuff about Jokic, Embiid being potentially more talented than Jokic in certain ways. Um, I think Jokic also has a basketball IQ level that you're just born with. Like, so be it. Um, that said, I do think he's had a lot of bad luck, and I do think he's done. And as we heard during the players' meeting that the Sixers had earlier this season, it hasn't seemed like it's held. It hasn't seemed like Embiid has taken that responsibility also to perform and act like the guy, like the best player in the NBA. And maybe that's what we get on the back end a little bit. Is kind
yeah.
of career like this.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Deepak, you're a Sixers fan, so you've been through this whole process. If you've been listening long enough, one of my favorite random Sixers teams is the Elton Brand host Andre or with Andre Iguodala.
Yeah,
The team that
Lou Will.
Drew. Yeah. Lou Will that took the Celtics to 7 games and almost made the Eastern Conference Finals as an 8 seed when D Rose got hurt.
Was
So
Will Bynum on that team or something like that? I don't
he
know.
might have been. Look that up. 2011, 2012
Yeah,
Philadelphia 76ers team.
yeah.
So you're more in touch with the fan base than either of us are. I think to your point, it's hard to say that this isn't like a Zion situation where he's just like completely, not caring for his body. It's definitely kind of like, I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs against New York. He did not look good going up and down the floor. He didn't look good. Part of this, I do think, is how much of this is closer to a Kawhi Leonard situation where just the knees and he just has a genetic predisposition to get more hurt, versus how much of this is, him not taking care of his body. It's probably a both and situation. So I hear you and I hear that frustration that you're talking about. I cannot imagine what it feels like to have a guy who is an MVP and just being like, why can we not get over the hump? I think I might have been the one that said that he was obviously more talented than Jokic at times. If I said obviously, that's my bad. I think last season at the beginning of the year, the way he was playing, the command that he had in the middle of the court, it might be an apples to oranges conversation because of Jokic's ability, I think, in a 5-on-5 situation, but Embiid was absolutely unstoppable. There was nothing that you could do to stop this guy before he got hurt last year. And you saw this. You saw what was happening last year. They were a top seed in the East. They were an easy NBA Finals contender, and then Embiid got hurt. So I don't know. I'm gonna rock with your guy actually here and say, yeah, like I don't know. Obvious. If I said obvious, that's my bad. But I think there is an argument that you could say in some ways, yeah, he's more talented than Jokic.
I think that I totally agree. I mean, this is a 7-footer who has way different high historically been better defensively than Jokic.
Yeah,
Weighs 280,
yeah,
and has shot the ball on multiple occasions almost to 40%. I mean, this isn't the thing is, the Jokic shoots the ball at a really high clip this year. Is one of the reasons he's historically good this year. But
Right.
going into the season, Jokic, I don't think had ever shot more than like 2.5 threes a game, shooting like 35% from three. When Embiid his
Right.
whole career has been shooting like 4 threes a game, pretty good percentage, etc.
Right.
That said, yeah, obviously more talented. If we said that, I don't know if that's what we meant, but like,
It's Howie.
the thing is, Jokic has things that he's just born with in terms of IQ that can't be taught, but Embiid also has athleticism things that can't be taught. And why can't like I'd love to see him learn how to capitalize more on those things than he has so far. Which I think is probably just the sentiment behind us saying that too. Um, that said, we're rooting for him because he's really good. He's really good, and even at his weight, because and I want to go back to your point that you said. I think he's closer to Kawhi than he is to Zion, and that's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel. He basically plays 60 games a season. I mean, let's be honest. Like Embiid doesn't miss seasons. Embiid always tries to play. Whether he's always putting his best foot forward in order to play, that can be a conversation for another time. But like I know last season they played 40 games, but the year before that, 65 games or more. The year before that, 65 games or more. 2 years before that, one of them being the COVID shortened season, over 50 games at least. 2 years before that, 63 and 64 games. So it's like he's not playing 20 games in a season, but like
Yeah.
he's also never playing 80. But so yeah, I do want to harp on that point. This isn't like yeah, like he's not 50 pounds overweight and eating at Chick-fil-A every day, which is a little bit like the sentiment of the comment. But like
Right.
I hear the criticism still. I do hear the criticism, and I do think that like talent wise, like you're saying, like if he took better care of himself, he could be a lot better, which I think is like our point. And this is a guy who won MVP 2 years ago.
Right.
So talent wise, we must think he's pretty damn talented.
Yeah. And has one of the top 10 peaks of a player that I've seen with my own two eyes since I've been a basketball fan. Probably.
Oh, we should do that list. We
We
should do
should
that
do that
list.
list. We should
Oh,
do
that
that
would be such
list.
a good list. We didn't we
Hey,
kind of do it earlier this season when I was talking about Jokic.
did we do? I think, well, we kind of did like a draft of NBA seasons since the year 2000 when we had Brian on.
Oh, that's a dude. That was such a good. That
That
was
was a
such a
great
good.
draft.
We might
Um,
have to do that
that
again.
was super fun. Yeah, we should. So maybe we could do some iteration of like best players that you've seen in that way. You don't have to select one specific season.
Just like peak best player, just like
Right.
yeah. Damn,
Like
that'd be
and
actually.
it could be a series, right? But one other thing I want to say about this take is I think a lot of your opinions, Deepak, and I'm not going to try to overly like psychoanalyze your take here, but you're kind of talking about his off the court stuff in a lot of ways. Especially this, I would also prefer if he kept quiet more often and off social media. You get a guy like Kevin Durant as well, and Kevin Durant's like talked about this. I think it was on Larry, no, David Letterman where he did this. I forget where he said it, but essentially his ability to play on the court and his thin skinness, whatever that term is, if that's what you mean by being quiet, if the concern is that him being focused on what other people think about him is impacting his ability on the court, I don't really know if that's the case. Like his concerns have to do with injury. To be honest, like he's playing on one leg half the time. And then we look at a guy like Kevin Durant and his off the court stuff in terms of fan engagement. It does not impact his ability to hoop on the court at all. So I hear you. Maybe if I know that you're kind of dealing with the trauma of Ben Simmons as well, and maybe that off the court kind of saga stuff has an impact here, and the whole like mental health around being a Sixers player with the heavy expectations that you guys have for your stars. But that also struggling to kind of figure out specifically what your take is here. It sounds like there's too much stuff off the court that's impacting Embiid's ability to stay on the court and healthy. Um, and to that, I say I don't know if I'd fully go there. Anybody can benefit from more stuff to take care of their body, but to what Max said, I think it's closer to Kawhi than Zion.
Yeah, and I think I agree with I agree with everything you're saying, and also like if he was a really good leader and showed up on time and didn't throw Ben Simmons under the bus after the Atlanta Hawks series, would you
True,
care? Would you care that he was active on social media? Like probably not.
true,
Like
true.
if he did it,
That's good criticism.
yeah, like I think that's my bigger issue. Like show up on time, don't throw your teammates under the bus, and then do whatever you want on social media. I don't care.
And
KD
then,
KD ride or dies for Josef Nurkic, man. Like
yeah,
what? Like,
right.
dude, like like no, and I know KD blew up multiple teams. Like don't get me wrong, but it's like while KD is locked in on your team, KD's locked in on your team. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, he doesn't. He's never had a 22-year-old Tyrese Maxey or a 24-year-old Tyrese Maxey had to sit him down and be like, "Hey, you need to, be a leader." I think that's a way more fair criticism than like the social media
Yeah,
stuff. Frankly,
for sure.
like if he did all
Yeah,
that stuff, you wouldn't even care about the social media stuff.
exactly. It's the I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about last time. It's the issues with the playoff game sevens. It's the issues with him flopping on the court that I think leave a bad taste in my mouth more so. And that flopping leads to him getting hurt too, because his 280-pound body is just falling to the floor time after time after time. You're going to get hurt. Now, look, we're again, this is a helpful. I love this comment too because
Yeah, 100%.
it does speak to what would it look like if he was singularly locked in on his health. It just again, it doesn't feel like he rushed back last year so that he could help the Sixers make the playoffs. So, is that an indication that he is focused on his health? Maybe, maybe not. But it's kind of tough to, Havoc 369. Your take was a little bit too conditional, or in my opinion, at least a little bit too many conditions. This one feels more like a subjective take about him being off the court that I don't even know if Max and I agree on per se. So
Yeah, I agree, and I think like we all have our criticism of Embiid for sure, but like
for sure,
all I'm saying is like if he knows where to get a Chick-fil-A black card, like he needs to let me know. Stat,
yeah, for
you know.
real, please.
That's kind of what I got from this comment. No, oh no, but on a real, Deepak and Havoc 369, we really appreciate the comments, even though if
Yeah,
we're
thank
like
you.
disagreeing. Like that's also why that's why I wanted to respond to the comments was like, and I assume why
Yeah,
you guys commented was to get a back and forth and a little discourse going. So we really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll do more of this.
yes, absolutely.
And I think with that, that's all I got, Anthony. Maybe I'm gonna go drink some Shirley Temples as Deepak just shouted out.
I'm
So
gonna go. I have a Planet Fitness black card, but I'm gonna go look for that Chick-fil-A black card.
there. Yo, Planet Fitness has black card?
Yes, sir. You can go to any location in the United States at a Planet Fitness with a black card. It's
Is
20
that
bucks a
one
month.
like oh 20, but yeah, I was about to make a joke. Is that one 21.99 or
Ha!
I was about to make it because the yeah, Planet Fitness shout out. Little goated business model.
Yes, sir. If I'm not saying Max is, but if somebody's complaining about Planet Fitness, it probably has more to do with you than Planet Fitness. You can do plenty of your workouts there. We're not sponsored by Planet Fitness though, unless
That
y'all
we
want to hit us
just we
up.
just glazed the hell out of a $10 gym.
Yeah.
Hey,
Unless you
but
want to
that's
go anywhere.
uh,
Yeah. But
$20 as we just found out.
come
And
on.
Joel Embiid does not have that card. I don't.
He doesn't that's the card he needs, not that
Is
Chick-fil-A card.
that's how we need to that's how we just solve Deepak's issues. We're getting Joel Embiid the black card from
And then
Planet
we can
Fitness.
get the Chick-fil-A card, which I believe the black card allows you to go in on Sundays. That's the
Oh,
special.
they opened it up for you.
If you flash that black card, it means you just came back from church.
You can walk into any church in America and they serve you some nuggets.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what the black card is?
Indeed.
Only
So I'm
Christian
being
ones, though. Only Christian ones, obviously. I don't probably.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm ruffling a little too many feathers. Now I'm getting shout out. Now I'm getting into Chick-fil-A religious views.
Yeah. Shout out to Chick-fil-A. Shout out to Planet Fitness. Shout out to the Kings. Yeah. Max, anything else?
Shout out Jonathan Kuminga. That's it.
Let's go. Come bucket. Love it.
Nuts.
Crazy.
He's gonna be out till after the All-Star break, by the way. So
Brutal.
when he gets extended for 5 years, 150 million, this offseason, you can shoot me.
Yes, sir. We will be putting the number at the bottom of the screen when that happens for Max.
I'm gonna go back and edit it and be like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
oh my god, that's gonna be
Shout
so
out.
bad.
Shout
I
out
mean,
Logic.
hopefully we give him 5 years, 150 million, and then it's like a sign and trade for
Mm.
Giannis. For Giannis. After they get beaten the NBA Finals by the Kings, by Devin
After,
Carter and the Kings.
yeah. After they lose in double OT to the Kings, wait, no, not all last year. Yeah. The Kings beat them last year. That's crazy. Yo, shout out Havoc. All right, kind of rambling here. Max, anything else?
Nah, I think that's it. What do we got next time up? we already. I feel like we made the plan for the next podcast on this podcast, but we're gonna do like we're at fantasy pods coming up. We
Yeah,
got we're gonna do All-Star Weekend preview coming up,
yeah,
and then we might do that draft of best players that we've
yeah.
ever seen. So
Love
yeah,
it.
pretty good pace, Brad. Thanks for watching as always, yo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to episode 70 coming up. That's exciting.
Pretty great.
Man, we're getting there. So, love y'all. I might go settle into a little bit of Pacers Spurs after this, but we'll be back in about a week as always. Love y'all.
Right.
Thank you. Continue to comment and we'll respond and do more of this. So, see you guys soon. Until, as always, we'll be here, Spittin Hoops. Holler at you.
Goodbye.